Good evening, folks, and welcome back to another episode of South of the Cheddar Curtain. As always, it's your boy, Devin Hine. I regret to inform you that there will be the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Lucas Mueller himself. Luke is up in the Cheddar Curtain, fortunately. He is in the Cheddar Curtain with his family for one of his longest-running traditions around the Thanksgiving holiday. So he'll be unable to join me tonight. However, we did have a very productive production meeting last night over text, so Luke is all on board with the plan for the show today, and we both can't wait for it to get started. So let's get to it. Today, we'll be covering, probably no big surprise, the weird game against the New York Giants. We took a little trip out to New York, came away with a dub. The homestand against the long, not so loved Minnesota Vikings, and looking forward to our matchup in just a couple days on Thanksgiving against the Detroit Lions. So let's roll back the clock and just kind of briefly go over that Giants game, which, yeah, we won, but like beating the Giants without Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterbo by 7 points, just I don't think really felt like a real win for any of us, right? If we lose that game, you really start wondering about how this season is going to go. I think we've already started to have some concerns about the pressure on the season with how much we've put in and just the opportunity that we have with a lot of our skill players still being on rookie contracts, which very soon that is not going to be the case. And we are unfortunately going to lose pieces of this team. But a win is still a win. So let's get into it. When I think of this Giants game, what first comes to mind is clutch defense. Now, again, giving up 20 points to a Giants team that's thrown out Jameis Winston and Isaiah Hodgins as their best threat offensively, not ideal. This would have been nice if this was like a 3 or a 7 point performance for our defense. Those are hard to come by, but this would have been a game on paper that I could have seen that we did that. However, Evan Williams should have a pick late to halt the Giants on a potential game-tying touchdown drive. That was huge. And then the Packers got the ball back and proceeded to kill absolutely no time, allowing the Giants one final attempt at tying the game, and Mr. Micah Parsons. Mr. Micah Parsons showing that he has been worth every asset that we had to send to the Dallas Cowboys for him. Had another sack, strip, fumble to put the icing on the cake and to put the Giants away for good. Now, earlier in this game, we got to see, again, that we have the greatest backup quarterback in the NFL. Malik Willis did it again. So Jordan Love, I like his mobility. I believe in his mobility. You know that Luke and I have had a bet on the show for a while about Jordan Love making some long runs. Well, Jordan decided to, maybe get some contact on a Giants defender that he didn't necessarily need to. He could have avoided that hit, but he chose not to. So all of a sudden, Jordan Love goes to the locker room in the first half. And as per Matt LaFleur, he goes to Malik and he's like, all right, Malik, we need you. And Malik's like, okay, cool. And what does Malik Willis do? Malik Willis goes back out there with the Malik Willis pistol read option offense that just a few years ago, we would have never believed that the Packers could run a pistol offense. That feels like another team. But nope, with Malik Willis, bring out the pistol, works like a charm, takes on a 3rd and 10, like a 12-yard read option for the first on a 3rd and 10 call to have that confidence in when I saw that it was a read option on 3rd and 10, I knew that it was going to work because Malik Willis, and I'm not one of these crazy people that's like, oh yeah, he should get a lot more playing time. But man, when we've been having so many problems getting this offense going this season, the way that even in that game, you just throw in that pistol offense, you throw in Malik Willis, it kind of gives you a change of pace. So I'm not saying Malik should be getting, 3-4 drives a game, but if we're stalling offensively and just need a little bit of a jolt or to give a different look, it has been so successful. And Malik Willis has been such a blessing, not only to this organization, but to my personal mental health. Thank you, Malik Willis. Thank you. He finishes that drive off with an absolute needle in a haystack to Christian Watson. How that ball got through the two defenders, I don't know. I feel like Malik has done this in pretty much every opportunity that we've gotten to see him play. Just make wild throws on the run. Hell of a throw. Maybe even a tougher catch from Christian Watson. But as we know, Christian Watson is him. And I know that one of the things that Luke would be remiss with me if I did not point out was the fact that Christian Watson is always open. He's always open. He's always open. You watch every single play, as per Luke, and Christian Watson is always open. And how he played in this game, and a little bit against Minnesota, we really should be giving Christian Watson the ball much more often than we are, because Christian Watson is indeed always open. I also just wanted to point out that, Love goes down, and then I believe it was the same drive that Josh Jacobs goes out, and they say it's a knee, and there's like a 15-second moment in your head, or at least mine, where it's like, is the season over? Like, if that's Jacobs ACL, and we don't know what Love is, but if it's anything more than sitting out for a couple drives, which is all he did, he was back in pretty quick. If it's something where it's a multiple week situation, is the season cooked? But thankfully, as we know now, Josh Jacobs avoided major injury, and he's going to be fine. He did not play against Minnesota. He is potentially going to play against the Lions, but regardless, we will be having him back in the green and gold on the field where he belongs sooner than later. Josh Whyle, welcome to the team. Talk about a young man taking an advantage of an opportunity that is given to him in the loss of Tucker Kraft. Josh Whyle was our practice squad call-up, and he had a nice little receiving touchdown. Good for you, Mr. Josh Whyle. Christian Watson added another touchdown late, which was ultimately the difference in this game, the 27-20 score. But we gotta look at that same drive on a 3rd and 10 in a gotta have it game situation. Jordan Love gets immediate pressure up the middle. And he just chucks it for a receiver who you can't see where he's going with it when the ball is thrown, and you have no idea. And then somehow, Savion Williams, of all people, Savion Williams, who's been dealing with this foot problem, who everyone said, he's just a wildcat quarterback. He can't play receiver. On what essentially looked to be a fade, goes up over the defender, catches an extremely tough and true to definition 50-50 ball. And Savion Williams says, that ball is mine. LaFleur even said after the game that he was surprised to see him out there because he was literally only supposed to be returning. And that morning, Matt LaFleur saw him in the hotel locker or the hotel lobby, and he was wearing the boot still. And it's not often that you see your returner in a boot. So he took the boot off for that play on a 3rd and 10 when we needed it. Huge play, Savion Williams. All the haters, man, all those people that say you're just a wildcat quarterback, you can't play wheel receiver, you're shutting him up. And especially in that moment, buddy, we could not be more thankful for you, sir. We also had, late in that game, an Emmanuel Wilson 2-point conversion. He had a rushing touchdown on the day, a rare sight for the, third year back, who's been our second string for a couple years now. He continues, and especially when we get to next week's game, the Vikings game, he just continues to be a blessing, a UDFA that I'm sure a lot of teams are regretting that they passed up on. We also had a Bo Melton sighting on offense. He had a 17-yard rush. Brandon McManus was unable to go in this game, so we got to have no controversy there. Finally get to see Haversack kick. It was awfully windy in New York, if you recall, and Haversack did miss 2 of the extra points. So that was not the best thing to see in the entire world. We obviously still came away with the win, but, for all those people, myself included, they were wondering, hey, should we give this kid more of an opportunity? Granted, it was wind, but missing 2 extra points, regardless of the conditions, is not going to look good on your record. And I think had all of us looking forward to seeing what McManus would do when he would come back, which he did against the Vikings. So like I said, not the prettiest game against the Giants, but we played complementary football and came together as a team, and our guys stepped up when we needed them to. And not every win's going to be pretty, but another hard-fought game where we come together at the end, I mean, at least that's something. This next game in Minnesota, there was no late offensive heroics that were going to be needed. Vikings notoriously are known for pillaging and burning, and the only thing that was burned was the hopes of millions of Vikings fans, even if there are maybe thousands, maybe hundreds, maybe in the teens of Vikings fans that thought they could go somewhere with J.J. McCarthy. because calling this offense bad and inept doesn't quite do it. In our 23-6 win over the Minnesota Vikings, our defense allowed 4 yards in the second half. 4 yards in the entire second half. And I love our defense. You guys know how I feel about defensive football. Watching that game against the Lions and watching that game against the Commanders early when the boys are flying all around, like, I love nothing more in the world. But our defense is not that good. It's not. And Minnesota is going to have some decisions to make when it comes to the draft next season, because I just don't think that J.J. McCarthy is it. And going into this season, there were all the question marks. And I thought McCarthy was going to be a whole lot better than this. And I was definitely concerned about a 4-horse race in the NFC North. Well, I promise you at this point, there are only 3 horses. The Minnesota Vikings, in my opinion, are completely out of the race for the NFC North. I would be surprised if they can even make the playoffs this year. On the day, J.J. McCarthy goes 12 of 19 for 87 yards, 2 interceptions, and 5 sacks. Apparently, on the plane ride home, he started showing signs of a concussion, most likely due to Isaiah McDuffie. McCarthy tried to scramble late, and McDuffie thumped him. I rewatched the highlights, rewatched the whole game tape. I've gone through it a couple times, folks. It's a good episode today. It's a good show. And he definitely did not look as sharp. Less dull? Let's say less dull. Before the hit, he threw a very questionable interception to Evan Williams afterwards, and I think that was the point of the most contact that would make sense. So McCarthy probably concussed, courtesy of Isaiah McStuffy. Now, Isaiah McStuffy and I apparently were on the same page, not knowing that the Packers were going to play the Lions on Thanksgiving, because I was thinking, and the way that Isaiah McStuffy was playing on Sunday was of the thought that game was our Thanksgiving week game, because, oh my heavens, folks, the man was everywhere. Interception, 9 tackles, which led the team. Pass breakup, half a sack. And those 9 tackles that led the team, it wasn't, one of those like little contributing ones where the ball carrier stood up and you just kind of throw your hand on. You get the point for you get the tackle for just kind of being in the vicinity. No, Isaiah McDuffie was thumping people in the open field. Cough, cough, like how he probably concussed J.J. McCarthy. The man was everywhere. He's Mr. Thanksgiving. I think there was some concern and curiosity as to how he would do having to be linebacker 2 with Quay Walker still being out with that stinger. The man came to play. The man left no doubt that if Quay or if Cooper go down, you might have a step down in the athlete that he is, but you are getting an absolute menace for offenses to deal with and for ball carriers to fear. Isaiah McStuffy, Mr. Thanksgiving, thank you for your work on Sunday. And thank you for being a Packer. Let's go to special teams real quick before I go into all of my other defensive thoughts in this game, because it was the defense and special teams that truly won this game. Daniel Whalen. Let's talk about Daniel Whalen. 3 punts within the 20 for a long of 63. And Daniel Whalen, in my opinion, coupled with Zane Anderson, had the play of the game. We were up 10-6, and I want to say the third quarter, and we were punting. And Whalen punts it, and I believe the ball hits within the 10, but then it backspins into Miles Price and Zane Anderson. They're caught up together, and they're blocking. And it just bumps into Miles Price because he has to deal with Zane Anderson. I mean, if a 6'2 boy out of BYU is up in your business, you're going to be focused on that, not on the ball bouncing back into your back, right? Not only did the punt hit within the 10-yard line, but then it also had the backspin to then veer into Miles Price. He gets surprised by it, turns around, tries to get a grab on it. No way. Zane Anderson pops him, says, my ball. Packers recover. We then punched him with Emmanuel Wilson, who, when we get to offense, Emmanuel Wilson, have yourself a day, sir. But yeah, Zane Anderson, Daniel Whalen, huge. Maybe Rick Bisaccia actually does something after all. Okay, all right. I'm not actually going to really forgive Rick Bisaccia of like the majority of his sins. He's still in the doghouse, but that was a wonderful play by a couple of our key special teamers. It's nice to see that with all that we have invested in that group, between the coaching and a philosophy shift of those kind of back end of the roster guys, let's make sure that your tight end 3 and 4 actually can play special teams. They're not just the third or fourth best tight end that you can get out there. And same thing at the linebacker position, and obviously same thing at safety. Although, you want to talk about Zane's really good special teamer and not a good safety, but when he actually played in a game, he had a pick. So, simply put, the man's in Zane. Again, a lot of thanks tonight. It's Thanksgiving week. Zane Anderson, thank you for being a Green Bay Packer. No Haversick. We were back to McManus, and McManus was back to being McMoney. 3 for 3 on his field goals. I wish he didn't have 3 field goals to attempt. I wish our drives would have punched in the end zone, but it was still nice to see that the man was back, who was doing what we asked him to do, and we can have a little more peace of mind with McManus going forward. He also made both of his extra points, something Haversick couldn't say from the week before. So again, for the McManus truthers, big stock up game for him. Evan Williams. Folks, if I'm not mistaken, Evan Williams didn't have a pick in his career before the New York Giants game. He's now got 2 back-to-back. Evan Williams out there streaking. Like I said, after potentially being concussed by Isaiah McStuffy, J.J. McCarthy goes back to pass in the fourth quarter, and he throws, like a ball in the middle of the field. It might have been a post. It might have been just a lazy in. But regardless, Evan Williams is able to break on it using that good instinct that we have seen him use over the years, and he is able to come away with the ball for the Green Bay Packer defense. Love it. So we have interceptions for McStuffy. We have interception for Evan Williams. It was also sack city. Like I said, Mr. McCarthy took 5 sacks. We had 2 from Micah Parsons, who now has 10 sacks on the season. I believe the statistic that he is only the second player to have 10 sacks in his first 5 years in the league. I don't know if you were familiar with the other one. He was also a absolute stud game wrecker that was somehow on the open market. And the Packers signed him, and then they went to go win the Super Bowl. I believe his name was Reggie White. Have you heard of him? I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but I'm saying it's an interesting point that we should think about. Warren Brinson, also known as Carl Brooks 2.0, because he looks just like Carl. Tall, not super thick, someone that can hopefully rush the passer is what we were saying. And oh shit, he did. He actually led the team in pressures on the day. I believe he had 5 or 6. So big game for Warren Brinson. And then I don't know if you've heard before, folks, but one Packer pundit believes that Devontae Wyatt is actually the MVP of this team. The MVP of this team. And the funny part about that is that I remember exactly where I was when he was drafted. I was sitting at a shitty wine bar in Valparaiso. I'm coming clean. I'm coming to the light. All right. Wasn't my choice to be there that night. And we picked Devontae Wyatt and Quay Walker, and I was thinking, what the hell are we doing? Why? And then I saw him play, and I came to the light. And when you see him have 2 sacks as a defensive tackle in an NFC North game where he picked up another grown man. J.J. McCarthy is not little. His play might be little, but he's not little. He picked up J.J. McCarthy and nearly threw him into the end zone for safeties twice. Devontae Wyatt, this defense just looks different when you are out there. This team just has a tenacity when you are there plugging the middle and making problems for offenses and having offensive coordinators lose sleep at night. Lord knows I would be if I had to play you, Devontae Wyatt. Another wonderful game for you. This defense was flying around. Javon Bullard nearly had a pick 6. Javon Bullard God, he is elite when it comes to the wide receiver bubble screen. Like a little tunnel, don't even do it. If Javon Bullard is out there, do not run a tunnel screen. Don't run a bubble screen. Don't run a screen to your receivers because Javon Bullard is going to sniff it out. It's like he has a magnet to that play. Now, unfortunately, he doesn't quite realize how good he is at that yet because at some point he needs to realize that he can turn towards the quarterback and pick off the ball because on this play it bounced off his helmet. And he could have had a pick six. But at least he's making a play. At least he's blowing up the screen. Just, little coaching tape there, Jeff Halfley. I hope you're listening to the show tonight. And maybe you can talk to Javon about quarterback's eyes, looking for the ball, taking the ball away. We could have had a third pick, and that would have put a dagger in this game much quicker. But maybe that wouldn't have been the best thing if we had a dagger quicker because this game offensively, we only really played one half. And if we get a pick six earlier, we might have even put our foot off or taken our foot, my apologies, off the gas even quicker than we did. Jordan Love and the offense didn't have to do a whole lot with how well our defense was playing. He finished the day 14-21 for $139. Now in our, company meeting, south of Cheddar Curtain, Luke was saying he felt like that Jordan played pretty well against the blitz. I think Luke was a little more glass half full on Jordan's performance than I was. And I'm not saying he was bad. I'm not. But I do think that he had a couple throws get away from him. I do not think it was his best showing. But it's also difficult to get into a rhythm when Matt LaFleur is spamming halfback dive like every other play. Every other play in the first half, but in the second half, it was every other play for at least like 7 plays in a row, which was a little frustrating. We'll get into that conservativeness in the play calling. Let's talk about good things on offense first. Christian Watson, 5 catches, 49 yards. Doesn't really jump off the page at you that much, but every time we went to him, as Luke always says, the man's open. So another nice Christian Watson getting back in rhythm as if he needed it, but just showing again, he is that dude. Dontavian Wicks had a near touchdown, 2 catches for 32 yards. Again, doesn't really jump off the page at you, but when you look at those 2 catches and one of them being what should have been a touchdown, he had like a 14-yard down to the 1-yard line, which Emmanuel Wilson punched in the play after. And then on a 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, all right, Luke, I hear you on this one. So I guess I'm proving your point here. But Jordan has immediate pressure right up the A-gap. He's able to get off to Dontavian Wicks, makes a go up and get it, tough catch, sort of like Savion's the week before. Beautiful play, I guess. Yes, that was a nice throw under pressure, Luke. I hear you. You're right. I got you. But Mr. Wicks, again, happy to see you're back. If I'm not mistaken, I believe I did send out a little Packer group text, the meme of John Wick, because at this point, I have no doubt in Dontavian Wicks. Romeo Doubs, I think, a drop in this game. Sometimes I get nervous with you, Romeo. Sometimes I do. But Dontavian Wicks, right now, I have no concerns of the dropsies whatsoever. Luke Musgrave caught the ball. Didn't fall down. Apparently ran over a defender for first down. So a little stock up for Luke Musgrave. I believe John Fitzpatrick did the same. Josh Wiley was the lead blocker when we went completely conservative in the second half. I swear there was 4 or 5 halfback wham where Wiley is the lead blocker and he's sent in motion in a row. Just nonstop. So Josh Wiley is fullback 1 is what this game has told me. Talked about McManus taking his kicks. Folks, if you couldn't tell, I was in for a banger today. I was in for a wonderful show. So your boy took a lot of notes, and if you know anything about me taking notes on the show, sometimes my handwriting can be a little questionable. So just, circling back to the randomness of thoughts, we got to talk about the running game. Thank you, because I saw Anthony Belton with a star on it. And yeah, that's important because Anthony Belton was playing right guard. Before we even get to Emmanuel Wilson's day on the ground, we have to start at where it starts, which is the offensive line, which has been one of our biggest Achilles heel this season, and our inability to get a not only consistent line, but really having the 5 best guys that we have out there, right? And I've been saying I want Anthony Belton out there. I've been saying if we're trying to run the ball, having a dude who's like a literal mountain, he has to go around and tell everybody. Like, he has to identify as a mountain. It's true. I've heard it. You have a literal mountain on your bench, and you are struggling to run the ball. I mean, last week or 2 weeks ago, when you start doing this whole 6 offensive lineman thing, we put Kennard out there. And Kennard's great. And Kennard's been, definitely in the season where we've had some questionable. Okay, before Micah, forget Micah. Think of the acquisitions and free agency and little trades that we had before that. Nate Hobbs, Aaron Banks, and then this guy, Kennard. Kennard's been great. I've been happy with Kennard. But when you're going to put another offensive lineman out there for beef for the running game, and you don't put Anthony Belton out there, the man who's literally a mountain, I question that. And I guess the Matt LaFleur maybe also might be listening to SOTCC, South of Cheddar Curtain. Thank you very much. Because we got to see Anthony Belton in. Now, I would not have anticipated he would have been playing right guard, but he has taken snaps away from Jordan Morgan. I believe he had 45 snaps to Jordan Morgan's 20, which puts a smile on my face, and especially when you wonder, folks, you wonder. Could that have set up Emmanuel Wilson's 107 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground? Having an actual mountain play right guard, could that help the running game? I am being a little sarcastic if you couldn't tell. Yes, indeed, it could. We were able to run the ball with, I would say, until we went conservative and then we're only running the ball and the Vikings could just crowd the box, with pretty good success. Emmanuel Wilson ran over somebody on the goal line. We were actually playing Packer running game football. And again, I speak of this game in 2 halves because to me it really was. Until we went conservative and ran the lead block with Wiley every single play and the Vikings just crowded the box, I felt that the running game was moving the ball much better than it had been. And it just makes you wonder what type of day it would have been on the ground if we had Josh Jacobs instead of Emmanuel Wilson and Chris Brooks. Emmanuel Wilson, great day. Nice to see what he does with a larger opportunity. Chris Brooks, not as pretty day on the ground, but also I felt like they were getting him more into the rotation when we were really just only running the ball. So he also was victim to the predictability of the play calling. And you got to be careful when you're being that predictable and conservative when you got not Emmanuel Wilson. My Wilson's confused. You had an Eric Wilson revenge game on our hands. 4 tackles, 1 for loss. He did have a pressure on Love that broke up one of our red zone opportunities that led to a field goal. So Eric Wilson playing his ass off like he did for us. You hate to see that it's on the Vikings, but nice to see, an old friend doing well. Even if you're not in the relationship that you'd like to be with them, you still just kind of wave from afar and say, I'm happy for you, man. I'm happy for you. As we talked about Wicks, we talked about Watson, talked about Musgrave. I guess it's now just the conservativeness, right? So we went up in the second half after that Zane Anderson fumble recovery. That took the game to 17-6 with 10 to go in the third quarter. And then it felt like the rest of the game was just us handing the ball off. Up the middle. Every single time. And there's been a lot of discussion about this. Other Packer media mates, Luke and I. And some people have pointed out that, was it conservation because the defense is playing so well? And we almost have a Bobby Boucher, SCLSU Mud Dogs Bourbon Bowl situation. Now, if you somehow have forgotten or are not familiar with, folks, one of the great movies of my childhood, which now I won't watch because I don't feel like it's very politically correct, but The Waterboy with Bobby Boucher, middle linebacker for the SCLSU Mud Dogs, their offense was completely inept. And they're playing their rival in the Bourbon Bowl, biggest game of the season. And in the first half, the SCLSU Mud Dogs were able to stay in the game because of Bobby Boucher and that defense making turnovers. Their opponent's head coach was like, okay, Well, we need to neutralize that. We need to eliminate the possibility of turning the ball over and creating a big play for the opponent, which is maybe what Matt LaFleur was thinking a little bit here, right? Like, if we just run the ball, it's a very low chance of a fumble, like a strip sack fumble, or the ball bouncing off Luke Musgrave's hands going into Josh Metellus' and him taking it back to the house, right? By stunting the offense, you also stunt the ability to have huge negative plays that would benefit your opponent and give them an opportunity to come back in this game. Because I think that Matt LaFleur felt, and we had all felt, that unless we shoot ourselves in the foot, this Viking offense has absolutely no chance to come back in the second half. And in a lot of the gaudy defensive stats, most of the sacks, I believe both of the interceptions were in the second half. So the Vikings offense really showed no fight, no capability to come back in this game. And maybe that's why he went so conservative. I can hear that. Jordan's shoulder maybe being more hurt than we think by running the ball every single play. Do you greatly diminish the chance that he's going to take a big hit? I hear that. Yeah, that's valid. Are we limited on playmakers because Matthew Golden and Jaden Reed are out? Okay. But I still think even if you want to run the ball every single play, you can do more jets. You can do stretch. You can do off tackle. You can do different counters. It felt like it was just halfback dive every single play. In the new Maddens, there's a feature where you can limit the number of play calls. You can only call a certain play one time or 3 times or 5 times, so people don't just keep on spamming the same cheese. I think that we need to have Matt LaFleur do that, because I got really sick of halfback dive every single play for the second half. It would have been nice to drop a 40 bomb on the Vikings. So I understand that with how our defense was playing, by only running the ball, it eliminates the chance for a scoop and score on a strip sack where Rasheed Walker gets blown by, which he was having a rough day with Dallas Turner. Definitely not the best game of Rasheed Walker's career. I get that. I understand that. I understand you have limited weapons. I just think that if you want to run the ball and kill the clock and shorten the game, which are all things that make sense to me, you at least got to switch it up a little bit. And when you're literally going to run the exact same play 6 times in a row, for the love of God, just once, just hit it with the play action. I mean, come on. What risk is that? Luke was saying go for the kill shot, and I agree. They're going to be biting on that so hard. Nobody's going to think for the 7th time that they're not just handing this off again. Like, come on, Matt. We always talk about you saying all gas, no brake. Man, the second half of that Viking game was all brake. What's a gas pedal? I'm not familiar with it. What is this weird foreign concept? So was it great to see the defense ball out against Minnesota? Yes. Was it great to see Emmanuel Wilson have a little breakout game in his opportunity? Absolutely. Great to see Luke Musgrave run somebody over. Of course. I think the biggest positive takeaway from this game has to be the idea and the emergence of Anthony Belton at right guard and how that can help the running game, and the absolute dominance of the defense from getting contributions from Warren Brinson, Devontae Wyatt and Parsons both having sacks, Isaiah McDuffie being absolutely everywhere. And oh yeah, CV was targeted 2 times covering Justin Jefferson. Jefferson went 0 for 2. Just in case you forgot, CV is him. So it was news to me, but our Green Bay Packers played the Lions on Thanksgiving. Look at that. Lions coming off a 34-27 overtime win over the New York Giants. Jameis Winston and company gave them everything they could handle and Jameis Winston with an NFL MVP-like performance. 366 yards, 2 touchdowns. Did have a pick because it's Jameis, but also had a 33-yard receiving touchdown in which he made a Lions secondary member miss in the open field. Talk about embarrassing. Oof. And how did the Giants do that? Did you guys hear Malik Neighbors is actually healthy? And that's why, no. Malik Neighbors is not healthy all of a sudden. Cam Scadabo isn't back. They didn't sign Plaxico Burress. He ain't back. Ain't Jeremy Shockey. No, Wan'Dale Robinson, 9 catches, 156 yards. So some questions there in the secondary for the Detroit Lions. Now, they did not, to my knowledge, have all-pro safety Kirby Joseph in this game. I know he will not be playing against us. So looking at that safety across from Brian Branch, okay, that might be a place that we need to look at. Offensively, the Lions are back to being the Lions that we know. Now, unfortunately for them, Sam Laporta is going to be out for the season, which I believe he was a little bit later at this point last season, but he was also lost for the season going to their playoff run. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 149 out of Goff's 279 through the air, so you know they're looking for the sun god. We're going to have to figure that matchup in the slot, which we're going to get into and talk about our injuries because we have a lot of questions, and especially a lot of questions that are going to affect how we try to neutralize the sun god. Jahmyr Gibbs had himself a day, 15 rushes for 219 and 2 touchdowns, including the first play of overtime, breaking off a back-breaking game-winning touchdown. As we know, he is a problem. Not in the first game against the Packers, but historically and throughout his career, Jahmyr Gibbs is a problem. A little hell jitterbug nightmare that you just can't tackle. Let's talk about our injuries. Let's just go through a few names that are up in the air. Keyshawn Nixon. Oh, folks, I am so sorry. I'm so happy I write things down. Maybe the biggest takeaway from the Vikings game. How could I have this betrayal? How could I forget this? I'm just going to have a little sip here as I prepare to break this news to you guys. Keyshawn Nixon went out early in this game. And I was like, oh, Nate Hobbs. Oh, no, Nate Hobbs is out. So who are we told is the fourth corner? Who have we been told since training camp, since the preseason? Who is the fourth corner? It is Bo Melton. It is no other human being other than the one named Bo Melton. And I got no problem with Kamal Haddon. And he actually came in like the first play, he had a run stuff where he popped the dude. The Vikings were unable to take any advantage of Kamal Haddon being in the game. And it's not like they have good receivers like Justin Jefferson or Jordan Addison or that dude from Maryland that Luke was in love with that hasn't done anything in the NFL. I'm just kidding, Luke. I'm sure he's going to be great. Or TJ Hawkinson or Aaron Jones. No, they got weapons. And they didn't do shit against Kamal Haddon. He's got a visor. He's got some cool drip. But why? Why, oh why, was Sweet Bo Melton not in the game? If you are listening to the show, Matt LaFleur and Jeff Hafley, I need an explanation. But in all seriousness, Kamal Haddon, the fact that we really can't talk about you playing because you didn't get cooked, that you were quiet on the broadcast, that I couldn't blur my eyes and look at the cornerback position and tell that it was you because of how poorly you played. Fantastic. Great game. Great introduction to regular season action for Mr. Kamal Haddon. But yeah, Nixon got hurt. I believe he has a stinger, so that's a question mark. Nessie played under 10 snaps against the Vikings, so I don't know if he re-aggravated his injury or wasn't quite ready yet or what happened, but he's one to watch. Quay Walker, hopefully he plays. I mean, I love Isaiah McStuffy, and it is on Thanksgiving, so we're going to see plenty of him, I'm sure. But when you're playing Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is one of the most important people you can have defensively, ding, 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 Quay Walker, the Velociraptor, hello. Do we not remember in week 1 how Quay was all over Gibbs? You would talk about Edgerrin Cooper being Michael Myers, but folks, it's Quay Walker that is in Jahmyr Gibbs nightmares. I promise you that. Carl Brooks. OG Carl. And I'm not talking new Carl, Warren Brinson. I'm talking OG Carl Brooks. Which I had a nice little thought before the show, like for our fandom who is trying to get a distinction in their minds between Warren Brinson and Nazir Stackhouse. Warren Brinson is Carl Brooks 2.0 and Nazir Stackhouse is TJ Slayton. Just when you're thinking body type and like purpose, like Warren Brinson is technically a defensive tackle, but as we have seen so far, he is much better at being a gap penetrator against the pass. And if you have a double team on him in the running game, he's going to go to the bleachers. Like he's just, that's really not his game. So OG Carl, he's up in the air. Jacobs, hopefully, love you, Emmanuel Wilson, but the Lions are no joke. They kind of got their mojo back. They got their swagger back. And I also love you, Chris Brooks. I do. I love you, Chris Brooks. You tried really hard. But I really don't love your pop when you get the ball on carries. You may be one of the absolute best pass blocking running backs in the league. You're pretty good out of the backfield. But running traditionally as a running back, you leave a little bit to be desired, my friend. So I really hope that we can have the best chance possible for productive runs, which means Jacobs and Emmanuel Wilson being the primary ones that carry the ball, maybe with a little pinch of Savion here and there. Just not the super predictable jet sweep. Think of something new, Matt, please and thank you. Any chance Jaden Reed's back? Kind of sounds doubtful at this point, but if he would be, that'd be huge. Or Matthew Golden. Do we forget that we have like a stud first-round receiver that's supposed to blow up at some point? Now would be a good time. Now would be a good time. If you get some nice plays out of Golden, you got Watson, you got Dontavian Wicks being John Wicks. You know, I like our chances. I do. And even if Golden doesn't play, I mean, I'm not going to pick against the Packers. What do you think this is? Some other podcast? I don't do that. I'm not going to go and like, oh, we're going to beat the Panthers. Like, I'm not going to talk a lot of shit, but if you think I'd ever pick us to lose this game, find a new show. Nate Hobbs. Well, I mean, him being hurt, I really care a lot less, especially with seeing what Kamal Hadden did. Like, we got Kamal Hadden who played solid, and then the Mystique future Hall of Famer Bo Melton waiting on the bench. I'm really okay with Nate Hobbs not being out there, especially, oh, by the way, who are we playing? The Lions? Who do they have? The Sun God? Do you really, folks, pause, close your eyes. Do you really want Nate Hobbs lining up across from Amon-Ra St. Brown? Because if you do, I suggest you go to the local ER and repeat the words after me. I need a stat arterial blood gas and a CT of my head, because there is something that is going wrong with you, and we need to get you attention as quick as we can. Because Nate Hobbs on Amon-Ra St. Brown just really doesn't seem like that's going to be a good time. For the Lions, their injury list is much less short. Graham Glasgow, I believe their starting center, is up in the air. Sounds like Kirby Joseph, who's notoriously been a dirty player against us. I know Tucker Kraft has called him out on numerous occasions, and he is, unfortunately, an excellent ball hawk. He has picked off Mr. Jordan Love before in the past. Mr. Kirby Joseph is not going to play. And then Khalif Raymond is also up in the air. Now, he's like their third or fourth receiver, but he always does really annoying shit where he gets open for like a 60-yarder on us. Man out of Holy Cross. Little school, little man, big heart. Against us, big problem. So hopefully he doesn't go. I mean, it's Thanksgiving football, folks. It's a big game against a division rival that is looking to be punching with their full might. Even without Laporta, I mean, they're back to being the knee-biting Lions. And we're just going to have to hope that we see a similar performance to week one. Now, it's obviously, I think it's going to be that good, because that is absolutely legendary. But we got to hold this team to under 20 points, and offensively, that means you have to score more than 20 points. Leave Belton at right guard. Stop running the receiver rotation as much. I get you got to get people fresh, but I want Dontavian Wicks and Christian Watson on the field as much as possible. And if by the middle of the second quarter, our offense ain't doing shit, then let Malik run there a little bit. It's not like against the Giants that Malik having to go in completely disrupted Jordan Love's rhythm. It's not like we were unable to move the ball after that because Jordan Love had lost confidence, which I know is an injury versus making a substitution for the potential of a positive play. I know it's a different mindset. But we can't just lay down in this game. And I don't expect us to. 27-20, Pack. Okay, 27-19, whatever. Because I said we should hold them under 20. Okay, my bad. 27-19, Pack. We're feeling stats. I'm feeling another Josh Wiley touchdown. I think we're using him so much as fullback, and when we get in the red zone, we like to do a lot of angular shit. And that's kind of where he got his first touchdown. Just a little spider 2 wide banana, play action rollout, hit him in the flat. People don't even know who he is. They'll forget he's there. Josh Wiley touchdown. And then defensively, I'm going to say that Mr. Thanksgiving makes another negative play for the offense. You can pick if it's a sack, if it's a forced fumble, if it's an interception. He's going to do something big because he's Isaiah McStuffy. And it's Thanksgiving after all. Until next time, folks. Go Pack, go.